Arun was a boy from a small village. His village nestled close to a wide, flowing river. The river was his best friend. He knew its sounds, its moods, and its many secrets. Every morning he would run to its banks, his bare feet feeling the cool, damp earth. He watched the sunbeams dance on the water's surface like tiny golden fish. The river was a playground for him, a place of endless wonder and quiet companionship. He often imagined the stories the water carried from faraway hills and distant towns, whispering them to the reeds and pebbles along its journey. It was a life of simple means but rich in the natural beauty that surrounded him. His family was poor. They lived in a small hut made of mud and thatch. His father worked hard in the fields, growing just enough food for them to eat. His mother mended clothes and tended to their small vegetable patch. Arun helped where he could, fetching water from the river or gathering firewood from the nearby woods. Despite the hardships, Arun was a happy child. He found joy in the little things, the flight of a kingfisher, the smooth coolness of a river stone in his palm, or the taste of a ripe mango plucked straight from a tree. The river especially was his sanctuary, a place where his spirit felt free and untroubled by the worries of his small world. The river taught Arun many things. It taught him patience as he waited for a fish to bite his simple line. It taught him about the power of nature when the rains came and the river swelled, its gentle murmur turning into a mighty roar. He learned to read the currents, to understand where the water flowed swift and deep and where it meandered slowly in shallow pools. He knew the creatures that lived in and around it, the darting fish, the slow-moving turtles, and the croaking frogs that sang their nightly chorus. The river was not just water, it was life, a constant flowing presence in his young existence, shaping his days and his dreams. He loved to swim in its cool embrace, feeling the water support him, carry him. Sometimes he would lie on his back and float, looking up at the vast blue sky, watching the clouds drift by like fluffy white boats. The river's song was a lullaby to him, a constant hum that spoke of continuity and the endless passage of time. He felt a deep connection to this body of water, a bond that was as strong and as essential as the air he breathed. It was more than just a river. It was the heart of his village, the soul of his childhood, a faithful companion that asked for nothing but offered so much in return. One hot afternoon, the sun beat down fiercely on the village. Arun was by the river, seeking shade under a large banyan tree that leaned over the water. The air was still and the river flowed lazily. Suddenly he heard a splash, a sound that was different from the usual playful noises of the river. It was followed by desperate shouts, sounds of panic and distress that cut through the afternoon quiet. Arun jumped to his feet, his heart beginning to pound in his chest. He peered through the shimmering heat haze towards the deeper part of the river, where the current was known to be strong and treacherous for those unfamiliar with its ways. He saw a man struggling in the water. The man was flailing his arms, his head bobbing up and down, clearly in trouble. He was well dressed, not a villager, perhaps someone from the city who had underestimated the river's quiet strength. Arun didn't hesitate for a moment. His small, wiry body was strong from years of swimming and playing by the river. He knew these waters like the back of his hand. He quickly scanned the bank for a sturdy branch, but seeing none immediately useful, he decided to rely on his swimming skills. He plunged into the cool water, his strokes sure and steady, making his way towards the drowning figure. The man, whose name was Rajveer Malhotra, was a wealthy industrialist from the city. He had come to the area looking for land for a new factory and had impulsively decided to take a dip in the inviting river, unaware of the dangerous undercurrents. Now, fear gripped him as the water pulled him under. Just as his strength was failing, he felt a small hand grab his arm. Arun, though much smaller, was a surprisingly strong swimmer. He skillfully maneuvered Mr. Malhotra, keeping his head above water, and began the difficult task of guiding him towards the shallower, safer part of the riverbank. Panting and exhausted, Arun finally managed to drag the sputtering man onto the muddy bank. Mr. Malhotra lay there, coughing and gasping for air, his expensive clothes soaked and ruined. He looked at Arun, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and immense relief. You saved my life, boy," he managed to say between gasps. Arun, equally tired, just nodded shyly. He had done what anyone who loved the river and understood its power would do for another in peril. In that moment, a thread of connection was woven between the poor village boy and the rich city man, a debt formed by the river itself, a debt that would drift unseen for many years. In the immediate aftermath of the rescue, Mr. Rajveer Malhotra was full of promises. He thanked Arun profusely, his voice still shaky from the near-death experience. He spoke of rewards, of helping Arun's family, of never forgetting the bravery of the small boy who had pulled him from the river's dangerous embrace. He stayed in the village for a short while, recovering from his ordeal, and during this time he seemed genuinely grateful. He even gave Arun a small sum of money, which felt like a fortune to the boy and his family. They used it to repair their leaking roof and buy some much-needed supplies before the monsoon season arrived. However, once Mr. Malhotra returned to his bustling city life, the memory of the river and the boy who saved him began to fade. The demands of his business, his meetings, and his wealthy social circle soon filled his days and nights. The dramatic rescue became a distant anecdote, a story he might occasionally tell at dinner parties, but the raw gratitude and the promises made on the riverbank slowly eroded like soft stone under a constant trickle of water. The urgency of his gratitude diminished with each passing day, replaced by the pressing concerns of his vast enterprises and the comfortable routines of his privileged existence. The river and the boy became a faint, almost forgotten echo. For Arun, life continued much as before. The brief excitement of the rescue and the small reward made a temporary difference, but the fundamental hardships of village life remained. He grew older, stronger, and continued to work hard helping his family. The river was still his companion, but now he also saw the struggles it faced. Silt was making it shallower in places, and sometimes rubbish from towns upstream would float by, marring its natural beauty. He often thought of the rich man he had saved, wondering if he ever remembered that day. There was no bitterness in Arun's heart, only a quiet acceptance of how life worked, how quickly some people could forget. Years passed. Arun became a young man. He took on more responsibilities, his dreams of a better life often clashing with the stark realities of his circumstances. He saw other young men leave the village for the city, seeking work and fortune, but Arun felt a deep tie to his home, to the land, and especially to the river that had shaped him. He tried different things to earn a livelihood: fishing, farming, a small patch of land, sometimes guiding visitors who wished to explore the river's quieter stretches. Yet prosperity remained elusive, and the memory of Mr. Malhotra's grand promises sometimes surfaced. A gentle reminder of a kindness that had drifted away unfulfilled. Many years later, Arun was walking along the dusty road that ran parallel to the river. It was late evening and a storm was brewing. Dark clouds gathered overhead, and the wind began to howl, whipping through the trees that lined the road. Arun was returning home after a long day trying to sell a small catch of fish in the nearby market. He quickened his pace, hoping to reach the shelter of his small house before the heavens opened up. The air was thick with the smell of rain and damp earth, a familiar scent that usually brought comfort, but tonight it felt ominous, heavy with an unspoken tension. Suddenly he heard the screech of tires, followed by a loud, sickening crash. The sounds came from a bend in the road ahead, a place where the road dipped dangerously close to a steep embankment leading down towards the river. Arun's heart leaped into his throat. He forgot his tiredness and ran towards the source of the noise, his mind racing with concern. As he rounded the bend, he saw a large, expensive-looking car, mangled and overturned, lying precariously close to the edge of the slope. Smoke was beginning to rise from its crumpled bonnet, and the scene spoke of a terrible accident. Without a second thought for his own safety, Arun scrambled down the muddy slope towards the wreckage. The rain had started to fall, making the ground slippery and treacherous. He could hear a faint groan coming from inside the car. He peered through the shattered window and saw a man trapped in the driver's seat, bleeding and disoriented. The man's face was pale and he seemed to be in great pain. Arun recognized him instantly. Despite the passage of years and the man's current distressed state, it was Mr. Rajveer Malhotra, the very same man he had saved from the river all those years ago. Fate, it seemed, had a curious way of bringing people full circle. Arun worked quickly and carefully, his knowledge of leverage and his innate strength coming to his aid. He managed to pry open the jammed car door. The smell of petrol was strong in the air, adding a sense of urgency to his efforts. He gently helped Mr. Malhotra out of the twisted metal, supporting his weight as they struggled back up the slippery embankment, away from the dangerous wreck. The storm was now raging, the rain lashing down and the river below churned angrily. Once again, Arun had saved Rajveer Malhotra's life, this time not from the river's waters, but from a disaster on its very banks. The river, it seemed, was a constant witness to their intertwined destinies. As Mr. Rajveer Malhotra lay recovering in the simple village clinic, his physical injuries, tended to by the local doctor whom Arun had fetched his mind, replayed the events. Not just the recent car crash, but also the distant memory of a hot afternoon and a desperate struggle in the river. He looked at Arun, who sat quietly by his bedside, a calm and steady presence. The lines of hardship on Arun's face told a story of a life lived with resilience, but without the comforts Rajveer had always taken for granted. Shame washed over Mr. Malhotra, a deep and profound realization of his forgotten promise, his unfulfilled debt of gratitude from long ago. "You saved me again, Arun," Mr. Malhotra said, his voice hoarse but clear. "Twice now you have been my rescuer. And I forgot you. I forgot what you did for me all those years ago. I made promises I never kept." Arun simply nodded, a gentle understanding in his eye. He held no grudge, no bitterness. He had acted out of innate human kindness, not in expectation of a reward. His quiet dignity struck Mr. Malhotra more deeply than any words of accusation could have. He saw the purity of Arun's spirit, a spirit that remained uncorrupted by the world's indifference or his own personal struggles. This second brush with death and Arun's unwavering kindness became a turning point for Rajveer Malhotra. He realized the hollowness of his wealth when measured against the richness of Arun's character. He saw the river, the silent witness to both his rescues, not just as a backdrop but as a life force that needed care. He learned from Arun about the river's declining health, the pollution and the struggles of the local community that depended on it. An idea began to form in his mind, a way to finally repay his debt, not just to Arun, but to the river itself and to the life that had twice been given back to him. "Arun," Mr. Malhotra said, a new resolve in his voice, "I want to do something meaningful. I want to partner with you. Let's work together to revive this river. We can clean it, protect its banks, help the people who depend on it. My resources, your knowledge, your love for this river, we can make a real difference." Arun listened, and a slow smile spread across his face. It was not the promise of wealth that moved him, but the chance to help the river he loved, the river that had been his lifelong friend. It was a chance for redemption, not just for Rajveer, but for the river too. And so an unlikely partnership was formed. Mr. Rajveer Malhotra, the wealthy industrialist, and Arun, the humble village man, joined forces. They established a foundation dedicated to the river's restoration. Rajveer brought his financial resources, his organizational skills, and his influential connections. Arun brought his intimate knowledge of the river, his understanding of the local ecosystem, and the trust of the village community. Together, they initiated projects to clean the river, plant trees along its banks to prevent erosion, and promote sustainable practices among the local populace. It was hard work, requiring patience and persistence, much like the river's own long journey to the sea. The river slowly began to show signs of healing. The water became clearer, fish populations started to recover, and birds returned in greater numbers to its revitalized banks. The villagers, inspired by Arun's leadership and Mr. Malhotra's genuine commitment, actively participated in the conservation efforts. They learned new ways to live in harmony with the river, understanding that its health was directly linked to their own well-being. Mr. Malhotra found a new purpose in his life, a satisfaction far deeper than any business success had ever provided. He spent more time in the village, learning from Arun and the river, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known before. Arun too found his life transformed. He was no longer just a poor village boy, he was a guardian of the river, a leader in his community. His quiet wisdom and deep connection to nature earned him respect and admiration. He never lost his humility, always remembering the simple lessons the river had taught him in his childhood. He saw how an act of kindness, performed without expectation, could ripple outwards, creating waves of positive change long after the initial act was forgotten by one, but remembered by fate and by the ever-flowing current of life that connected them all. The river, their river, continued to flow, its waters carrying a new song, a song of hope, of renewal, and of the enduring power of human connection. It taught them, and all who witnessed its revival, that life, much like a river, moves in circles. Kindness shown, even if forgotten for a time, often finds its way back, sometimes in the most unexpected ways at the most unexpected times. The river remembers every drop, every ripple, every act of good faith, and it reminds us that the debts we owe are not always of money, but of compassion, and that these are the debts whose repayment truly enriches the soul, making the world a gentler, more harmonious place for all.